Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 232, and I have an important question for you. Have you ever brought audio into your classroom and asked your students to imagine what their world could look like? Maybe after listening to the audio. Today we have a very interesting show with an amazing guest, the creator of GenZ Media, a company that's creating audio shows. Some can call them audio, some calls it podcasting. Either way, great content, standards driven. It's going to hit all the content and curricular and digital learning standards. And today you're going to learn how you can take advantage of all this content absolutely for free. But before we get into our interview today, I hope you guys are having a great time of year. Of course, now it's February, and you know what? My Eagles are in the Super Bowl, so we're going to be celebrating in the next couple of weeks once the Eagles hold that trophy up. And to help me celebrate the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, I have Sue Vincent with me today. Sue, welcome back to Ask the Tech Coach. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. It is so awesome to be back. I've missed everyone out there, all of you listeners. Yeah, I'm still here.
What have you been up to?
Oh, it's been a busy several weeks, couple of months in the Vincent's household. Just dealing with various things with family members, aging parents, and just the busyness of the holidays and getting back in the swing of things. But here we are. I just got back from FETC.
Yeah.
So that was an awesome trip.
How was that? What was the deal? What's the latest and greatest? What are we able to look forward to in 2023?
Well, you know, artificial intelligence was the big hot topic. So learned a lot about that and getting ready to have those conversations in our school system. But New Orleans was very good. I'd never been. And, you know, if you're a partier, Mardi Gras person, that's the place to be. I'm looking forward to next year when it's back in Orlando in my favorite sunshiny place.
When you get to ride the monorail again, Sue, let's be honest.
Yes, exactly. Go visit Disney Springs, all that good stuff. But I was able to present, so I was excited about that. I did a 2-hour workshop on digital tools for giving effective feedback to students. So that went really well. I had about 25 in my workshop.
This is that time of year where conferences are coming up, getting ready for ISTE. Are you going to be attending ISTE this year?
I'm not sure yet. I hope to, but we'll see how the schedule pans out. So I kind of hope to. We'll see what happens.
We're looking forward to that. We have a couple sessions we're going to be doing at ISTE, and you know what? There's a lot of great PD happening. ASCD has got a lot of great things. ISTE's got a lot of great things. If you are an ISTE member, I am an ISTE community leader, and we actually just started up a coaches program for the ISTE community leaders. You can head on over to istecommunityleaders.com. I think it is. I'll double check that. Put the show notes link in there. Everything that we're doing is out there, going to be supporting coaches. We're starting to have monthly meetings. So lots of great instructional coaching stuff. And you know, Sue, we now have over 1,400 instructional coaches in our TeacherCast Instructional Coaches Network. Head on over to askthetechcoach.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Click on that link. You can join us on K12leaders.com, LinkedIn, or also on our Facebook group. We have a lot of great content and a lot of wonderful things happening in the world. But first, I got to ask you, Sue, are you a podcast listener?
Oh, yes.
Have you ever listened to a podcast with your students?
Well, of course, it's been a while since I've been in the classroom myself, but I have a few teachers, and I see a lot of Facebook groups where that conversation happens of, hey, do you have any recommendations for use of podcast with my students? And some of them, you know, those teachers who eat lunch in the room with their students just because that's how they're set up, they're looking for ways to kind of pass the time and still be able to engage and discuss things with their students. So, that's huge.
Our guest today is a Peabody Award-winning creator and also the overseer and creator of GenZ Media. I want to bring on today Mr. Ben Stross. Ben, how are you today? Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. I mean, we've been obviously podcasting for a long time and creating great media for adults, but you've been creating podcast audio media for students. Talk to us a little bit about what GenZ Media is.
GenZ Media is a media and entertainment company. We're not an education company. And so it's not quite right to say that we've been creating for students. We create for a family audience, and we create first for a youth audience, adolescents, tweens and teens. And we've found that they've really taken to our shows. 6 Minutes, Becoming Mother Nature, The Unexplainable Disappearance of Mars Patel, big audio adventures, mysteries, dramas, comedies, kind of like old-fashioned radio plays. What makes them educational is not what we've done, but it's what teachers have done with them. They brought them into the classroom. So that's been a real thrill for us. And it's been a focus for us in the last few months as well, trying to support those teachers.
How did all this get started? I'm curious.
Well, a few years ago, together with my partners, Dave Kreisman and Chris Tarry, we had the idea of creating these big story worlds, things like Percy Jackson or Harry Potter or anything that any Amblin movie, E.T., Jumanji, whatever. It's those kinds of shows that inspired us, but we wanted to do it in audio. We wanted to do it in audio because it was cheaper. We wanted to do it in audio because it was fun and we could greenlight our own shows, and we did. And from the get-go, people responded. And over the last few years, we've managed to reach, it's up to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people a month. So many millions of people, millions a year. And a large part of that audience, like I said, is tweens and teens. Probably 2/3 of the audience, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the show. We have about 25 shows, are older kids, adolescents, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders. But like I said, the idea that there were going to be kids in the classroom was never something that occurred to us.
And I love the concept here. I mean, my 9-year-old triplets were constantly listening to things in the car. They're constantly picking it up. They're constantly trying to find, something that they're listening to. And it really is hard these days to find good content out there for that kind of age group. Talk to us a little bit about some of the shows that are available.
Sure. I mean, and you put your finger on it when you said it's hard to find good content for that age group. When we started, it seems self-evident now, but there's a ton of content in the world, but in audio in particular for preschool and elementary age kids. And that's a very specific kind of content. Whether you're talking about television or audio, it's a simpler content. And if it's story driven, it's not going to be a sophisticated story with complex characters and relationships that evolve. And then there's lots of stuff for adults and for YA. There certainly is, but the same number of kids, of course, obviously, pass through the tween and teen years as adolescents, and there's not a lot of content that is created for them for that time in their lives before they're actually adults and they're trying on young adults and trying on things that young adults try on, and long after that they're little kids. They're now beginning to make their own choices. They have their own devices. They're still living at home and they're still going to school, but they're nothing like little kids. And so the shows that we created were the kinds of shows that adolescents typically, I mean, that's the demographic. Those are the kinds of shows that adolescents love. I think we've done a good job, but it'll be for others to say. Our most popular show is a show called 6 Minutes. It's called 6 Minutes because there's a conceit of the story that ties it together with the title. But the episodes are also very short. They're about 6 or 7 minutes typically. Sometimes they creep up a little bit. And there are a lot of them. There's over 200. And that's become our most popular show because for I guess a whole bunch of reasons, grade school, middle grade teachers, mostly 5th, 6th, 7th grade, but also up to 9th and down to 3rd even, have somehow we discovered a couple of years ago. I don't even remember how, but someone told me that there were worksheets on Teachers Pay Teachers. I didn't even know what that was really. And I searched and there were hundreds and hundreds. I don't know about thousands, but certainly hundreds. And that was a couple of years ago. And they're there for all of our shows. 6 Minutes, Becoming Mother Nature, Mars Patel, and others. And then we just, I don't remember how it started in the first place, but I think teachers started reaching out to us. And in response, I got really curious and I wanted to find out how they were using these, why they were using these shows and how they were using the shows. And we started to visit classrooms. I visited a couple hundred classrooms at this point, at least, all around the world, mostly North America, but all over every territory in Canada, just about every state in the United States, rich districts, poor districts, impoverished districts, private schools, parochial schools, public schools of every stripe, classes that are where classes and breakout groups that are learning above level, and plenty that are learning below level, or are classes with a group of students who are struggling with literacy or struggling with engagement. And it's been incredible to see. So what the experience is like. And like I said, you have to keep in mind that these shows of ours are not typical podcasts. They're not talk shows. They're not people sitting around chatting. They're sophisticated, I'd like to say sophisticated, immersive stories, which with full cast, and they're scored like an HBO drama. It takes us a very, very long time to develop them and to produce them. And part of our business is to produce these stories so that they can be adapted as well, which has happened a couple of times. We have book series and shows on TV. And I think that what teachers have seen, from what I've seen, is an opportunity to engage students regardless of level. It's kind of like they've used these shows as tools in different ways to teach ELA curriculum and for classroom engagement, to teach basic skills, like really basic skills that are part of standards, communication and collaboration and creativity, and especially critical thinking.
So there's a lot of thought process that goes into taking something like this. I mean, as Ben was saying, it's a 6 to 8 minute show, but there's 200 episodes of this. If you were an instructional coach and you were trying to bring this into your school or into a specific classroom, how might you do that, Sue? How might you create either a PD session, or how might you work with a teacher to bring in this concept of, use these shows and now we're going to do something with it?
Oh my goodness, so many things are swimming around in my mind as I listen to this and look at the resource site. I mean, look at the simple fact of one of those hard standards to cover. A lot of teachers feel like is those speaking and listening standards. What better way to cover those listening standards than these podcasts, these short little podcasts? 6 minutes is about the attention span of a lot of our students and us teachers in a lot of ways. So, being able to do that and then have a verbal discussion or have them write and reflect on it, use those resources in doing the activities, those critical thinking skills. I mean, speaking and listening standards, that's a huge one. And then not only the cross-curricular stuff that they can provide, such as science and social studies concepts and just whatever else is out there.
I love the concept of working with little ones on this topic. Listen to an episode, what do you think happens next? Or listen to an episode, draw a picture of what's in your mind, or draw a picture of a character. And even
summarizing, yes.
Summarizing, right, going back and forth. And that just opens up the opportunities for coaches to create manipulatives and to create flowcharts and Venn diagrams and all these different things. What do you think is happening? What's going through your mind with all of this stuff? Ben, when you're working with coaches, and we had an opportunity before the recording today to talk to somebody who, loves this platform, Donnie Piercy, a great educator from Kentucky. Sorry, Sue, another great educator from Kentucky. What kind of feedback are you getting from the educational community?
Well, it's incredible. It's everyone is so enthusiastic. And when you ask educational community, I mean, of course, it's the classroom teachers and the principals who sometimes, it's such a big occasion when we visit because of the enthusiasm of the kids, the principals talk to us as well. And they, again, I don't want to, I'm sort of more repeating what I've been told, but they feel like this is something special in terms of being able to engage not just individual students, but the entire classroom together, and to teach without having to teach exactly what you were describing, without having 5 different plans that have to be executed simultaneously. And people have said to me wonderful things, like, for instance, the shows provide, one teacher described the shows as providing equal access to higher level thinking, equal access regardless of whether a student is struggling with listening or literacy, or is excelling but hard to engage. Everybody is able to come together around the lesson where the show's at the center. And the other thing, sorry, please. No.
Well, and it looks like, I mean, and from our conversation from Donnie and then others that he mentioned, Lisa Heifel, you have incorporated these teachers that are in the classroom to help launch this project forward.
Yes, that's right. So you can find all of our shows. I should have said this at the top. You can find all of our shows at gzmshows.com. That's our listener-facing website. There are usually during the school year between 50 and 100,000 people who are listening in a month. Students from EDU addresses is what I'm trying to say, who are listening on that website. But the site that we launched a couple of weeks ago, actually at this point it's over a month ago, is GZM Classroom, and that's a teacher-facing site. You can find a selection of our shows there, the popular ones, but you can also find materials for teachers to use to support, all kinds of lesson plans. They're flexible, they're powerful, they can be customized, they're simple. And I always, when I talk about our shows to educators who haven't listened, I always, I don't know whether I can say enough that it's hard to understand what the experience is until you've listened to yourself. And you can go onto our website, or you can download our app. We have an app on iOS and Android. GZM Shows is the app. It's free, just like the websites are free. All the materials are free. There's no charges for anything. And like I said, it's hard to convey what it's like without listening. But once you've listened, you get it. And once you've seen either teacher in action with these shows or the kids listening and talking about them afterwards, when I visit, it makes me feel like a rock star. It's that kind of enthusiasm. So you ask about the response from educators. I'll include the kids in that. They're very happy to be. They wouldn't call it. I don't know what they would call it. I ask them. They certainly don't act like they're eating broccoli. They act like they're having the best time of their lives. And the teachers say that they're learning. They're able to teach more effectively, and the kids learn more thoroughly than ever before.
And for those of you who are listening and wondering just a quick example of what's here on the GZM Classroom. I clicked on it. I found the 6-minute podcast and clicked on a couple others. There's a choice board for almost every one here, which is awesome, giving the kids choice. And then I just simply clicked on the season 2 6 minutes digital listening guide. And it's for the teacher to follow along. There's some tips and tricks. And then there's just graphic organizers and charts, character profiles that you can print out or digitally use with the students on your learning management system, getting to know the characters, just so many different activities that cover a wide range of our 4 C's and reflection and summarizing prediction. Good stuff. And I just clicked on a couple of things right here.
Thank you.
We're certainly going to make sure that all the links are over here on our show notes. Again, this is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 232. Ben, as we start this calendar year, I know recently you were just at FETC down in New Orleans. What are the plans for this year? What is the platform going to look like in 6 months into a year? What's development look like for you?
Well, we're going to take the feedback that we're getting from teachers about gzmclassroom.com and continue to improve that site. Like I said, it just launched, so it's simple and I hope it's easy to follow, but we can always use feedback. We're going to continue to try to, because the shows have been adopted organically. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a funny place for me to be. I want as many people to be aware of these shows and be excited about them as I am, and to continue to try and get the word out there to teachers who haven't yet discovered that podcasts can be a valuable tool in the classroom. And I do say podcasts, not just our shows. I mean, our shows are unique in the sense that they're for a particular audience: 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, middle school students. Middle school age students, not for elementary or preschool, but podcasts of all stripes are incredibly valuable tools. There's some great science podcasts that are not really story driven, but they are great learning tools for younger kids. And this is interesting, but the art or process of recording yourself is an incredibly valuable tool, tool, I guess, for kids to explore. Because, at least speaking as a writer myself, the idea that you may not have the grammar or syntax or typing ability or penmanship to express yourself in a way that you want, but kids still have sophisticated ideas, but they don't have the practice of exploring those ideas and developing those ideas, outlining them, going back, revising them. But you can do that in audio. And not all podcasts, Absolutely. Of course, have to be, sophisticated story worlds like ours.
The nice thing about a platform like this is that, and I'm looking at both the ISTE standards for students and for educators, and honestly, it meets every single one of these standards, and you can completely take this this content and just mold it to your classroom, mold it to your grade level, mold it to your subject area, and really have a good time with it. Ben, one more time, where do we go to find out all the information about the platform? How does the teacher interact and get in touch with you?
Yeah, gzmclassroom.com is the place for teachers. GZM Shows is our listener. gzmshows.com is our listener-facing website. But GZM Classroom is where you'll find all the free materials. Our app, GZM Shows, we use that a lot, is available on iOS and Android. And you asked about the coming year. Right now, it's just an easy listening app. You can take the shows with you and download them. If you can move from one show to another, it's safe for all kids. And a great deal of our listening, maybe the majority of it, is co-listening. So it's parents or friends listening with each other. And if it's frequently in the car, and the app makes that easy. Obviously, it's easier to navigate the shows. You don't have to search for them, and you can mark where you've been. You know what you've listened to. And with a show like 6 Minutes, which is like most of our shows, serialized, each episode is not an independent story, but the story develops through the year. or through the series, it's valuable to have an app that organizes it that way for you, for sure.
I highly recommend checking this out. We're going to be following this and sharing it out, and I'm going to be picking out my favorite episodes. Maybe we'll have you guys talk about something specific on an episode coming up here, and we'd love to, of course, get Donnie and other educators coming on. If you guys have been using this platform, please let us know. We would love to have you guys on to do a follow-up show about this. Ben, this is great. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing everything that's going on over at GZM Classroom.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Thank you both.
And if you guys are out there interested in more, of course, you're going to be able to find out all this stuff over on AskTheTechCoach.com. This is, of course, episode number 232. We're going to make sure that we have all the links and stuff. We want to say thank you to Sue and Ben and everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, saying thank you guys so much. And on behalf of everybody on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.